Hi, I'm Dr. David Dobson. Welcome to Conversations. Today, my guest is Rafael Morales-Guzman. Rafael is a PhD candidate in public policy at Johnson Shoyama Graduate School of Public Policy, University of Saskatchewan. Today, we will discuss Rafael's PhD research on digital technologies and regulatory policy in the financial service industry. It's a pleasure to have you on my show, Rafael.
Thank you, Dr. Dobson. It's a pleasure is mine. Thank you for having me here.
Rafael, please share with us what brought your interest to the topic of public policy and administration.
Sure. Yeah. So I would like to address this question from citing one of my favorite novelists, Mexican novelist. His name is Vicente Leñero, and he has a book titled Life That Goes On, La Vida Que Se Va in Spanish. And he has a quote there saying that there always has to be more possibilities, more paths, more answers. And I think that quote kind of summarized my academic and professional trajectory and what drives me to public policy. Growing up in a developing country like Mexico, where issues such as income inequality, poverty are evident, and you can witness financial crisis that affected so many families in the past decades, it was kind of natural in me to start developing strong interest in policy matters, in public policy. I recall having conversations with friends, families, co-workers, colleagues at some point on how to enhance the political, economic, financial, or institutional circumstances of Mexico, right? And that kind of led me to start trying to get education that gave me more tools to answer these questions. And that's why I started. I pursue a double bachelor's degree in economics and political science, and later I went and earned a master's degree in public administration with focus on international development. And now I'm further expanding this for in a PhD in public policy, right? So I kind of my background and living in a country such as Mexico kind of motivated my interest in public policy, which I found one of the best definition of one simple but best definition about public policy is the one that gives by Thomas Dye in his book, which is Understanding Public Policy. He says that public policy is whatever whatever governments choose to do or not to do. So basically, that's I think it's a great definition of what is public policy.
Nice. So I want to ask you one personal question. Before you decided to come to academia, you were working in a bank, and I'm sure banks pays very well. Why you decided to come to academia and do your PhD?
Well, that's a great question. Actually, I was working for the Central Bank of Mexico, okay. And I got the opportunity to work for a policy-focused department. I work in the financial stability division, and then in there I had the opportunity to engage in discussions about financial regulation and financial policy, and that kind of started developing more interest into digging into research, because part of the daily work was reading papers, reading academic journals to start to figure out what would be the best tools to approach policy in the financial sector.
Okay, that makes sense why you decided to do PhD. Rafael, for your PhD research, you're examining digital technologies and regulatory policy in the financial service industry. So tell us about your research project.
For sure. So right now there is an ongoing debate and among financial regulators, supervisors, authorities, governments, how to regulate in financial technologies. Some jurisdictions are considering supervising technology broadly, and others more focusing on some specific activities and industries like financial activities or some services that are heavily tech driven. But there are challenges about how to regulate technologies. For example, regulating exactly digital currencies or private currencies illustrates challenges of these technological advances. So central banks and governments are contemplating a technology-based response
Okay.
By releasing what it's called the digital central bank digital currencies, right?
Okay.
So my PhD focuses exactly in this intersection of digital technology, financial technology, regulatory policy, and try to analyze what's the response of the governments, what very fits into the regulatory frameworks, and what works or might not work given the pace of technology.
Okay. So I guess digitalization, it's definitely affecting the way banks do their business and try to be more efficient. So what are some of the challenges in this with digitalization?
Well, there are a lot of challenges in regulate technology.
Okay.
So there is a mismatch between usually
Mm.
regulations and policies are in a slower pace. I mean, they're enacted in a slower pace than the developments in technology. Technology right now is running and is growing faster than the regulations. So the challenge is how to put in place regulations that kind of balance the innovations without balance the risk and innovations that they promote the innovations, but without harming the consumers or putting too much risk into the systems. So it's a big challenge to have some flexible regulatory systems for this double aim.
Yeah. So Rafael, what have you done for your PhD research so far? I know you are still working on your PhD.
Yeah, and I have adopted a mixed method approach.
Okay.
And combining qualitative and quantitative data.
Yeah.
I have conducted extensive literature reviews. There's a lot of academic literature, but also great literature about regulations, especially from banks. A lot of reports from banking sector, from research units from banking, also from global standard settings like the BIS, the Banking International Settlements, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and I've been trying to map. I'm trying to map all this literature and try to figure out what is the discourse in these high level discussions, regulations. Yeah, and I'm also planning to conduct to collect primary data from surveys from policymakers or from important players from the industry to get their insights, what they think, and also from the users of consumers of these technologies. What are the challenges and how they feel using these technologies.
Very nice. So this data collection will take place in Mexico, or it's for or global based data collection?
I aim for a global based collection. One of the things I'm planning and for my student proposing is to conduct a comparative case study between Canada and Mexico.
Oh, nice.
Because I mean, there are clearly differences in the two countries, but there are also some similarities, and technologies are global in that sense. So it will be interesting to see what would be so one of the things that motivates this comparison is that in Mexico there is a financial technology law that was enacted maybe 10 years ago that specifically regulate financial technology. In Canada, it's more broadly, there's no like a specific law, but of course there's regulations about some technology. So it will be interesting to see where the difference and the outcomes that these different institutions and regulations are having in place.
Yeah. Like in Canada, the bankings are very centralized. Like, we have 5-6 major players, and then we have a small credit unions and small banks. How do you compare banking system in Mexico and Canada?
Well, in Mexico there are way more banks, and there are about like almost I believe over 45 banks.
Oh, nice.
But it's a very consolidated by the 7 largest banks. So
like
in that sense, it's like Canada also. Yeah, exactly. And out of those 7, 5, I would say 5 or at least 5 are foreign owned banks.
Okay,
One of those
okay,
is one of Canadian banks, Scotiabank.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
So there are some similarities in there,
okay,
in the terms of the
mm,
consolidation of the banking system.
okay,
Yeah.
nice. Um, so what did you learn from your PhD research so far, like in your literature review or some of your early observations?
Yeah. So I have gained some really nice insights. So first is that the regulation, specifically of digital currencies, is
Yeah.
still an ongoing process. There are
Okay.
significant variations across
Okay.
countries, and there is a lack of a unified global regulatory framework.
Yeah.
And this presents challenges. Again, the technology is global, but
Mm-hmm.
regulations sometimes are local,
Mm-hmm.
and depends on the country. So, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, in Canada, the proposal from the Bank of Canada to issue a central bank digital currency is
Mm-hmm.
motivated. There are two main causes or two main triggers for that. One is a massive adoption of cryptocurrencies
Mm-hmm.
by the population, and the second one is a decline, a sharp
Mm.
decline of cash in the
Oh
society.
yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but that is not true, for instance, for a country like Mexico, where cash
Yeah.
is still like it's in high usage,
Okay.
and that might not be the motivation behind a potential issue
Yeah.
of a central bank digital country. So
Yeah.
motivations among countries vary by
Yeah.
across, and the underlying motivations from the regulators and the authorities,
Yeah.
it's diverse. So to understand this, and this is a real challenge to put in place global
Mm.
frameworks to address
Yeah.
these challenges.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So what are the potential implications of your research?
So in this particular uh, topic, so I've noticed also that there seems like a general threat among
Mm.
the regulators, and this is like the kind of the main implication, and that could be a way to regulate technologies ahead, specifically thinking about now with artificial intelligence
Mm-hmm.
technologies.
Mm-hmm.
So there has been like a stage or a phase approach to technology, especially I'm talking about digital technologies in
Mm-hmm.
digital currencies.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems that there was first a period of discovery with limited attention, especially
Mm-hmm.
to cryptocurrencies, digital technologies, digital currencies.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's followed by an increased attention only from actors like central banks or private institutions, like what
Right.
is this going on? What is this innovation?
Yeah.
And the third phase was more an early regulatory approach. So when they realize this is happening, that people are starting using, they start
Mm.
to just putting in place bans, prohibitions, or
Mm.
just giving a chance to see how it works. But then when they realize that there is something that it doesn't necessarily fit into the
Mm.
regulatory framework, then they start to react and shift to actively seeking potential answers. And one
Mm-hmm.
of those answers, or one of those policy answers, is for instance, the central bank digital currency.
Yeah.
So that seems to be one of the implications of how to have a more phase and a more kind of balanced approach to
Mm-hmm.
regulate things. But
Mm-hmm.
but also another implication is that that regulators and policymakers, especially in the financial sector, should be aware that all these conversations shouldn't be driven only by technology, because they can be carried away by the hype, or what is the hot topic at the moment. At that time, it was maybe financial technology, cryptocurrencies, but now they are talking about artificial intelligence and so
Mm.
on. So this kind of could be something like a
Mm.
bandwagon effect,
Yeah.
and it should be more a nuanced approach to
Yeah.
giving, not just being carried away by
Yeah.
what is the topic on that
Yeah.
it's going on.
Yeah. Rafael, what is your advice to those who wish to further research this topic? I'm sure there's more to discover here.
Yeah, no, this a great question, and there are for sure several areas in where future scholars and future students
Mm,
can address. And one potential gap
mm,
is the impact of of the digital currencies, of the
yeah.
digitalization in general of the economy
Yeah.
in emerging markets,
Yeah.
in terms of financial
Mm,
inclusion, Another role will be what is the international cooperation in managing the risk associated. I was telling that there is a very dispersed responses from governments all around the world. So how do we encourage a global coordination? Global coordination, it's very hard to achieve. So, but maybe technology is driven this convergence to a more coordinated response, and of course there's a need. I can tell that to have an interdisciplinary research, right? So that combines technology, people from computer science, from economics, from public policy, from sociology, from psychology. All these disciplines coming together to give varied responses to this.
Yeah. A lot of possibilities. Thank you for sharing. I want to ask you something with your master's degree. For your master's degree at Cornell University, you studied the financial performance of microfinance institutions in Nepal.
Sure.
I thought that's a very interesting project. Can you tell us about your project?
Yeah, for sure. So it was indeed a very interesting project. I had the opportunity to participate in what is called, it was called the Cornell Nepal Study Program. So I got the opportunity to live there in Nepal for almost 8 months, and then I was involved in it was part of a 2 internship project. So one of that was with one local microfinance institution that provided microfinance services for remote and rural places in Nepal. From out of that, I started data collection. I had the opportunity to help them in and to go in field research and to be to see firsthand what was the process of giving the loans to the communities, and how it works in a way that it was helping these communities to launch small businesses and help them to have some different sources of income. Nice. So I conducted that, and I also was part of another project that was sponsored or developed by the UNDP in Nepal. So it was a micro enterprise development program. And in there, it was a program also focused for the micro development of enterprises. And then in there, I also had the opportunity to collect more information, and that was a really interesting time where I could I could analyze all this data to determine whether the microfinance they were using all these resources to achieve their goals. So microfinance institutions, they have to balance the social outcome to provide, but also to balance the financial outcome, because at the end of the day, it's a bank. So it's a struggle to balance these two goals they have. So, but in Nepal, my findings in that research found that my research what I found, it was that they were actually helping. They were very focused in providing microfinance and loans to people that really need it. But of course, the financial part, some of them they were operating in sometimes in not good numbers, and it was a struggle for them. So they needed the support from international organizations or other like UNDP. So yeah, it was a great experience.
Very nice. So what is next for you, Rafael?
Well, I'm an aspiring scholar, and I'm committed to continue delving into this intersection of technology, innovation, and regulatory policy, and try to contribute to the discourse of how to better regulate technology, how to find interesting and novel ways to help the policymakers to have the tools to assess the technology, to give spaces to technology, but also to put regulations that mitigate the risk for the consumers, especially in finance. In finance, consumers, what they value more is about the trust of the system. How trustable is the institution you are taking your money to, And if the regulation or if the government don't have a good regulatory frameworks or regulatory institutions there, then you can have so many financial issues there. So so having in place regulations that promote new ways to put technology there for consumers, to make them at the end of the day life easier, but balancing the risk, that will be something that I will continue to contribute and to research on.
Wonderful. Thank you for your time, Rafael, and best wishes in completing your PhD.
Thank you, Dr. Dobson.